All right, so 8.3 is rotations. And I want you to think of rotations as turns. We talked about translations are sliding a figure up and down, left or right. We talked about reflection is a flip. We're flipping over a certain line of reflection. And rotation are turns. We are turning a certain degree in a certain direction. These are all three are rigid motions. So let me just write a few things down here so you know here on the side note, rigid motions. So far we covered three rigid motions. We covered the first one, which is translation. Okay, in translation you move a certain figure, you slide a certain figure up or down, left or right, or some units left, some units up or down, so it's just sliding a figure. The second rigid motion we talked about was reflection. And reflection has always a line of reflection that you need to flip over the figure. So there's always a line of reflection, and there's an equidistance between the image and the reflection, which is the pre-image. And then the third one is rotation. All of these are rigid motions. It maintains the same distance. It maintains the same shape. It does not change the figure. So the figure and the image and the pre-image of whatever you are transforming maintains the shape, maintains so parts are congruent. So things don't change here. If I reflect, I reflect the same distance over the reflection line. If I rotate something, I rotate the entire figure a certain degree. And if I translate a certain to the left or to the right, the entire figure is translated in that direction. So the figure does not change, so your image and your pre-image are congruent. Same size, same shape. Okay, so those are rigid motions. Something that is not rigid motion, it's something that you change the shape or you change the size of a certain figure. And we're not doing any non-rigid motions, we're only doing rigid motions. Okay? So let's focus on rotation. I'm going to go directly to your worksheet, homework. Now, if you are confused, remember, we did the notes worksheet in class. This is worksheet 8.3, notes rotation. We did all this in class, and you need to come and copy the notes from me or ask for help or go to Math Lab. The notes were done in class, so I'm not going to go over the notes in this video. I'm going to go over the homework, the 8.3 homework. Okay, it says HWK, homework rotation. So that's the one I'm going to go over to make sure you understand it. Now, it is very nice to have it next to you, the little rotation flashcard. Okay, counterclockwise rotation rules. If I'm rotating 90 degrees, if I'm rotating 180 degrees, if I'm rotating to 70 degrees counterclockwise. 180 really doesn't matter. If something is rotated 180, it doesn't matter if it's counterclockwise or clockwise. 180 lands in the same place. 90 degrees counterclockwise is the same as 270 clockwise. So this two other here has a connection, okay? So we explored this in class. Rotating things 90 degrees, 270 ends up in the same spot. 180, doesn't matter where you start, 180 clockwise or 180 counterclockwise, the figure lands in the same spot. So knowing this three is the most important one. The other ones, any other things comes from this idea over here, and I'll show you how to do it. So let's first do the number one here. It says graph the image of the figure using the transformation given. Okay, so I have a image, I have a pre-image. Something is previously given to me. This is the pre-image. I need to graph the image of it. And it tells me rotate 180 about the origin. Notice that it did not tell me which direction. It did not say 180 clockwise or 180 counterclockwise because it really doesn't matter. Okay? If I am in first quadrant right here, I'm just going to pick a point. If I am right here, I'm just going to call this point Z for an example. I will erase in just a minute. If I rotate this point 180 degrees, it will end up right here at this point right here, Z prime. So that is 180 degrees because I know it forms a line. Okay, so this point, 180 degrees, counterclockwise lands over here. And clockwise would also come all the way and land it over here in the same spot. That's why 180 degrees does not matter the direction, because you will land in the same spot no matter what. So this was just an example for me to explain why I don't have to tell you which direction to go, because you will land in the same spot no matter what. So we have over here the little card, and the little card says to rotate something 180 degrees, there's this little negative x and negative y. But the negative in this case, the negative does not mean negative. The negative sign means change the value. Okay, it's opposite value. That's all the little negative sign means. Change the value. If something is negative, make it positive. If something is positive, make it negative. That's what the little negative sign is meaning here, is to change the value. So to change something to rotate something 180 degrees, I just have to grab an x and a y value and change their values. Okay? If they were positive, I'll make them negative. If they're negative, I'll make them positive. So let's take a look at it here and follow the rule of 180. Let's look at point P. Point P, it is at 1, comma, 1, 2, 3, 4. Point P is at 1, 4. The rule tells me change their values of them. So now point P is going to become P prime. I'm going to label P prime. The opposite of number 1 is negative 1. The opposite of positive 4 is negative 4. So I changed their values. Now I'm going to go ahead and graph point P prime. Negative 1 is right here, and then drop negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4. So that point P is going to end up over here at P prime. And I'm going to do the same thing to every single point. The point K. The point K is at 1, 2, 3, 0. At 3, 0. So K prime is going to be at opposite of 3 is negative 3. Opposite of 0 doesn't exist, so it's just negative 3, 0. So the K is going to go to negative 1, 2, 3 right here. I'm going to label that K prime. Now let's do point F. F over here is at negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, and up 1, 2. So it's a negative 4, 2. We are going to rotate that using the 180 degree, change the negative 4 to a positive 4, change the positive 2 to a negative 2. So now point F is going to come to positive 4, negative 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4, drop down 2, 1, 2. It's going to come all the way down here at F prime. Now the last one is point N. The point N is at negative 1, and then you drop 1, 2, negative 2. We're going to make point N become N prime at opposite of negative 1 is positive 1, and opposite of negative 2 is positive 2. So we're going to go to 1, 2. 1, 1, 2. And he ends up right here as N prime. So there we go. I rotated completely. Now I can go ahead and use a nice little, if you have a little ruler, and connect the dots. Okay, I'm going to connect it right here, and here, and here. There we go. So that pre-image was rotated and it became this image. Now I'm going to prove it to you, and I suggest the students all to grab a petty paper, and I am going to put it right over, and I am going to draw the y-axis. The y-axis is right here. I'm going to label y, and I'm going to draw the x-axis right here. And I'm going to put 3 points. I'm going to put 4 points. Point P, point F right here, point N, and point K. I am going to draw lightly my figure, which was the pre-image. The original thing that was given to me, I'm drawing over it. Now it says rotate about the origin. That means you pin the orange down, origin, you pin it down, and you rotate 180 degrees. When I rotate 180 degrees, there we go. I end up at the pre-image. So my drawing now is over the pre-image, okay? So I know I did it correctly. I am checking with petty paper. So I rotated 180 degrees. Look at my little y-axis now is pointing down. It was originally, my little y-axis was pointing up, and I rotated completely 180 degrees. So this little y came all the way down here. I rotated 180 degrees, and I'm tracing right over the image that I just did it. So I know I did it correctly, and I'm checking with petty paper, okay? I gave petty paper to the students, and I'll give them many more petty papers, and we use it over and over to check it. So you have this little flashcard that I'm letting you use it, and you can carefully regraph the points, and then you can check it with petty paper to see if you did it correctly, okay? So let's do one more. Let's do rotate 90 degrees counterclockwise. We're going to the left, okay? Counterclockwise, 90 degrees about the origin, okay? So we do have a 90-degree counterclockwise rule right here. For 90 degrees, grab every single point, x and y, switch them, make the y becomes the x and the x become the y, but also make sure you change the value of the y. That's what the rule says over here. So you're going to switch the values, and you're going to change the value of y, okay? So let's see what is here. I'm going to pick the 3 points. Let's go ahead and pick this point B. Let's go ahead and see what the x and y is for point B. Move over -1, -2, -3, -4. It is -4, comma, go up 1. There we go. And then we're going to switch it. We're going to apply the rule. The rule says for you to find the B prime, flip them over. Okay, now it's going to be, instead of -4, comma 1, it's going to be 1, -4. It's going to be 1, comma, -4. I switched their position. The y became the x, and the x became the y. And then they say, change the value of y. So now instead of a +1, we're going to have a -1. Okay? So the rule says, let me write it in the white paper here. Okay, the rule says if I'm going 90 degrees counterclockwise, pick the point x and y, and to switch it, to find the rotation, you switch their spot. The x becomes the y value back here, and the y value become the x value, so you switch their spot, but you also need to change the value of the y. Okay, that's what the rule says. So that's exactly what I did here. I had a -4, comma 1, so I switched their spots. I made the 1 come in the front, the -4 go in the back, and then I switched the value of +1 to a -1. That's what I did, and I'll do the same thing to every single value here. So the B prime is a -1, -4. So -1, -1, 2, 3, 4. That's where B prime is going to go. So I'm going to label B prime right here, B prime. Now I'm going to do the x value. The x value is at -1, -2, -3, comma, drop 1, 2. So drop 2. So it's a -3, -2. Now it's going to become, switch their spots. It's going to become, the x is going to become -3 in the back. The y is going to become -2 in the front. And then I switch the sign of the y. Now it's going to become a +2. So I need to go to +2, -3. So +1, +2, drop 1, 2, 3. It's right here. And this is my x prime. And then let's do one more, which is the n. The n is at -1, -2, -3, -4, -5. Is at -5, comma, -1, -2, -3, -4. The rule says change it to, the n prime is going to become, the -4 is going to come in the front, the -5 is going to come in the back. We switch their spots. And I need to make the front number opposite value. Instead of a -4, now it's a +4. So now I need to go to +1, 2, 3, 4. and drop 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Drop 5. And that's my n prime. Connect the dots, and there we go. Okay, so now my little triangle shifted over here, rotated over here. If you want to check with a patty paper, which I always suggest and tell you, please check with the patty paper just to make sure you did it right. Here is my pre-image right here. X value is right here. Let me put the y-axis right there. I pin at the origin, and we're going to rotate 90 degrees. So just one quadrant over, we rotate, and there we go. Okay, whoops, I moved it a little bit. And we end up right on the top of it by checking with the patty paper. Okay, so the rotation, whoops, I moved it a little bit, right there. Okay, and that is how you check. Oh, I keep moving. That's how you check the rotation of the 90 degrees was here, and you move it down here. Okay, so always check with the patty paper to make sure you're doing it right. Use the rule. I have a flashcard. Everybody should have a flashcard. You can use it, and you can check it with the patty paper to see that you rotated correctly. So we did the 180, we did the 90. There's quite a few 90s and 180s all around this page. And then in the back is the opposite, okay? So the best thing for you to do here is just pick one point from point P prime to point P. How did that change? And then compare with your rule over here. And then you can tell which way it was rotated, okay? So that is for your rotation. I ran out of time for this video. Let me know if you have any questions, and I would love to help you, okay? Good luck.